What makes a good friend? Or let me say it differently. If I want to be a better friend, if I want to form better friendships, what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I kind of actually like the first formulation of your question a little bit better,
Sure.
which is what counts as a good friend, which I think is someone who both sees you, recognizes you, doesn't have a highly like inflated or um, fabricated vision of you. It's not a fantasy, and they're willing to do two things: one, to be deeply present with you and care for you, and two, be honest with you. And if you can pull off someone who has both of those things, it strikes me as much more likely to be the kind of relationship that you can build your life around longer term.
This raises an interesting question to me because right
Yeah.
now there's a lot of talk about people forming friendships with AI chatbots.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, I mean, there are actually studies. One came out in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science where people say, I feel more heard by AI chatbots than by humans. Part of that is we're learning is because they're pretty sycophantic, right? They
Yeah.
pretty much want to reinforce you, whatever you think, whatever you say. Yet you're raising the view that being a good friend means being supportive or empathetic in a much broader sense. Because sometimes to be empathetic or supportive, you have to challenge a person and you have to work toward discovery and changing together. And so, what are your feelings on AI chatbots getting us used to friends who are very sycophantic?
I mean, it's a completely fascinating phenomenon for me. As you know, as a researcher on loneliness and friendship that predates all of this kind of development of this technology, watching the degree to which the principal AI companies are desperate to make them social technologies. So there's a version of this where you have exactly the same background architecture, but that the primary research paradigms are going into figuring out how you make AI reliable for running utility companies or make AI reliable for predicting troop movements with the Pentagon. That's maybe happening as well, but it's a much lower priority, at least in the public relations part of what's happening with AI companies. When OpenAI rolled out their last big public model, the one 4.0, they made this huge deal about how suddenly it's going to have better voice, it's going to be more natural, it's going to be more like interacting with a human. And the question in my mind with that is why. And my tentative answer there is that there is recognition in Silicon Valley that among the most important things, they basically agree with Aristotle, among the most important things in life, social relationships, what it means to be with other humans, actually matter more to us than almost anything else. And so they want this technology to be touching on that. It also, however, does, I think, end up taking on almost exactly the set of properties that you're describing, which is that they tend to, the version of social interaction that they tend to prioritize, at least as a default, is one that's like highly flattering. I mean, whenever I'm using it, it's constantly saying to me, "Oh, that's such a perceptive question. Oh, you've put your finger right on the main point." Blah 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 blah. Right, and some of that is just affect and tone. My intuition, I published a piece a couple weeks ago trying to push at this question about the sycophancy in AI. And one of the things that really struck me as I was doing background research for that piece is how much I think that tendency toward flattery is actually a way that they're trying to solve a technical problem, which is they the mechanism of this is actually not that smart. It doesn't really understand what's important in the world. Like, it doesn't have the criteria that Aristotle's talking about with friendship, which is that you yourself would have an independent sense of what's good and beautiful and true, and then that is able to be a kind of nourishment for your friend. And so they're trying to fabricate it a little bit by saying, okay, I'm just going to allow my attention to fall on whatever it is that particular user is trying to prompt me to in a given moment, and to make them think that it's a really good question. And it kind of works on a lot of us, but I'm unconvinced that that's the basis for a good friendship.
So just in life in general then, it sounds like what you're arguing for is authenticity. in a friendship as opposed to sycophancy. So, what are some ways that you think about, or what do these traditions suggest that we do to find those types or nurture those types of relationships?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's the right way to put it. That I think of friction as you can have relationships that are deeply disharmonious, that have the wrong kind of friction, that actually break in all kinds of ways, and all of us have experienced those kinds of relationships. But there's also a positive kind of friction, which is that someone sees you and knows you well enough, and also sees and cares about what's good and beautiful well enough that they're able to bring something into your life that you wouldn't have on your own. And uh, my my sense of a good friendship is one, I think I do really track Aristotle's definition here, is one in which both people independently are strong in that kind of way, where you are actually able, you are also doing that for the other person, that you yourself have an independent sense of what's good and important, and then able to offer something to them that they couldn't actually bring to themselves. And that aptitude is where I think the AI thing is falling down in all kinds of ways, that it's trying to present to us like a frictionless world instead of one that has friction to it. And you can understand why that would be a technology that would scale very quickly. That's not necessarily the same thing as a friendship that's actually going to be good for anyone. But to the deeper question that you're asking, though, the traits that I tend to really look for as I'm building new friendships are people who, independently of me, are seeing a world and dedicating themselves to it, that in a way that's actually like cultivating virtue in Aristotle's sense.